Welcome, and let the world grow quiet around you. As you settle in, and let your breathing slow down all on its own, imagine drifting gently outward from the Earth, past the Moon, and out into the deep and peaceful dark, beginning a calm and unhurried tour of 100 quiet facts about the stars and the galaxies. This is not a tour designed to frighten or excite, but a gentle invitation to wonder and to drift softly towards sleep. There is nothing at all you need to remember tonight. Just let the words wash over you, one slow and quiet fact at a time, as you sink a little deeper into rest. The first fact is that a star is an enormous glowing sphere of hot gas, made mostly of hydrogen and helium, held together by the steady pull of its own gravity, and it shines calmly and continually because deep within its core it is slowly fusing one element into another, releasing a river of light and warmth outward across the quiet and endless dark. The second fact is that our own sun is a star, an ordinary yellow one among many hundreds of billions of others scattered through the galaxy, and it seems so very much larger and brighter to us only because it rests so close to home, while all the other stars lie unimaginably far away across the vast and silent dark. The third fact is that the light you see from most stars in the night sky set out on its long and patient journey years, or centuries, or many thousands of years ago, traveling steadily through the dark all that time, so that to gaze softly upward at the sky is truly to look gently and quietly backward, into the deep and distant past. The fourth fact is that stars are born within vast, cold clouds of gas and dust called nebulae, enormous drifting regions of space many light years across, where the gentle and patient pull of gravity slowly gathers the thin, scattered material together over long and unhurried ages, drawing it inward little by little into the first faint seeds of new stars. The fifth fact is that these star-forming clouds are among the very coldest places in all of the universe, far colder than anything found on Earth, and yet from within their quiet and gentle darkness the hottest and most brilliant objects of all are slowly and patiently born, drawn softly together atom by atom over long ages in the deep and silent cold. The sixth fact is that a star begins to form when a small part of such a cloud grows dense enough that its own gravity finally overcomes everything else around it, and it slowly begins to collapse gently inward upon itself, drawing in more and more of the surrounding gas, and warming quietly and steadily at its slowly gathering center. The seventh fact is that as the collapsing cloud contracts inward, it begins to spin faster and faster, and flattens gradually into a broad, swirling disk, so that the young forming star at the very center is gently surrounded by a slow, turning ring of gas and dust, from which planets and moons may one day quietly be born. The eighth fact is that the young forming heart of a star is called a protostar, still hidden and softly wrapped deep within its glowing cocoon of gas and dust, quietly gathering more and more mass and warmth for many thousands of years, long before it ever grows hot enough to begin to truly shine as a star at all. The ninth fact is that a true star is finally born only when its core grows hot enough, reaching many millions of degrees, for hydrogen to begin fusing gently into helium, and at that quiet and profound moment the star ignites softly from deep within, and settles at last into a long and steady and peaceful life of shining. The 10th fact is that this slow fusion of hydrogen into helium is the gentle and patient furnace that powers nearly every star in the sky, releasing a vast and steady flow of energy from the very center, which then makes its long, slow, patient journey outward to the surface and finally away into open space as light. The 11th fact is that the energy born deep in a star's core can take many thousands of years to work its way outward to the surface, drifting slowly and being absorbed and released again through the dense inner layers, so that the sunlight gently warming your face today was in truth quietly made a very, very long time ago. The 12th fact is that a star spends the great majority of its long life in a calm and remarkably stable balance, with the outward push of its fusion energy holding up perfectly and patiently against the inward pull of its own heavy gravity, a gentle equilibrium so steady that it can quietly last for many billions of years. The 13th fact is that the mass of a star at the moment of its birth decides almost everything about its future. How brightly it will shine, what soft color it will glow, how many long years it will live, and the quiet or the dramatic manner in which it will one day, at last, come to its end. The 14th fact is that the most massive stars of all, though quite rare, burn through their great stores of fuel furiously and live only a few million years, while the smallest and gentlest stars sip their fuel so slowly and so carefully that they may go on shining softly and faithfully for many trillions of years still to come. The 15th fact is that stars are almost never born alone, but usually together in great clusters of hundreds or even thousands, all forming from the same vast cloud at very nearly the same time, like a large family of glowing siblings, scattered slowly and gently across the same quiet and shared corner of space. The 16th fact is that many of the loveliest nebulae glow with soft and delicate color because the fierce light of hot young stars nearby causes their surrounding gas to shine, painting the gentle darkness in soft reds and pinks and blues, the quiet and glowing nurseries where the very newest stars of all are still being born tonight. The 17th fact is that the famous Orion Nebula, faintly visible to the unaided eye as a soft blur on a clear winter night, is one such great and glowing stellar nursery, an enormous cloud some 1,300 light-years away, where many thousands of brand-new stars are quietly taking shape even now, as you rest. The 18th fact is that the very elements within your own body, the carbon and the oxygen and the iron that make you, were all forged long ago inside the hearts of ancient stars, so that in the truest and deepest sense you are made of stardust, woven gently and quietly from the ashes of stars that lived and died before our sun. The 19th fact is that more than 9 out of every 10 stars in the whole universe belong to a modest and steady class called the main sequence stars, ordinary stars living out the long, calm prime of their lives, quietly and faithfully fusing hydrogen within their cores, just as our own gentle sun is doing at this very moment. The 20th fact is that though the wide space between the stars looks utterly empty and dark to us, it is in truth quietly filled with thin, drifting gas and fine grains of dust, the very same material from which new stars are still being slowly gathered, so that the cosmos is forever, and gently, making itself anew in the dark. The 21st fact is that a star's color quietly and faithfully reveals its temperature, so that the coolest stars glow a soft and gentle red, the warmer ones shine a mellow yellow much like our own sun, and the very hottest of all burn with a brilliant blue-white light, calm and beautiful beacons scattered across the dark. The 22nd fact is that this may seem a little backward at first, for here on Earth we tend to think of red as hot and blue as cold, and yet among the distant stars the blue ones are truly the hottest of all, and the red ones the very coolest, a gentle and quiet reversal of our everyday earthly sense. The 23rd fact is that astronomers carefully sort the stars into classes labeled with the letters O, B, A, F, G, K, and M, running smoothly from the hottest blue stars all the way down to the coolest red ones. A long and orderly sequence remembered fondly by generations of gentle stargazers through simple little phrases. The 24th fact is that our sun is a G-type star, resting comfortably right in the middle of that great and orderly sequence, neither the hottest nor the coolest of the stars, a calm and steady yellow star of very ordinary size, exactly the sort that shines on patiently and faithfully for billions upon billions of quiet years. The 25th fact is that the coolest and smallest of all the true stars are the red dwarfs, dim and gentle and remarkably long-lived little suns, and they are by far the most common kind of star in the whole universe, quietly and patiently outnumbering all of the brighter kinds many times over throughout the entire galaxy. The 26th fact is that a red dwarf sips its store of fuel so slowly and so carefully that it may go on shining softly and faithfully for tens of trillions of years, far, far longer than the entire present age of the universe itself, dim and patient embers glowing gently and steadily in the deep and endless dark. The 27th fact is that the nearest star to our own sun, called Proxima Centauri, is one such small and faint red dwarf, resting a little over 4 light-years away from us, so dim that no unaided human eye can ever see it, and yet it remains our very closest stellar neighbor in all of the vast surrounding dark. The 28th fact is that the true brightness a star gives off can differ greatly from how bright it merely appears to us. For a dim little star that lies nearby may easily outshine a truly brilliant star that lies very far away, so that distance quietly and patiently shapes almost everything that we see in the calm night sky. The 29th fact is that the most massive and luminous stars can shine with the combined light of 1,000,000 suns, blazing so fiercely and so brightly that they burn all the way through their great stores of fuel in only a few million years, brief and brilliant lives compared with the long, slow, patient ages of their smaller kin. The 30th fact is that some stars swell to truly enormous and gentle sizes near the ends of their lives, becoming red giants and red supergiants so vast that if one were placed where our sun now rests, it could easily swallow the orbits of the innermost planets, a soft and glowing giant of cool and quiet gas. The 31st fact is that the star Betelgeuse, glowing softly and warmly red in the shoulder of Orion, is one such enormous red supergiant, so immense across that its surface would reach out well past the orbit of Mars, and yet its outer gas is spread so thinly and so gently that it is lighter than the very air we breathe. The 32nd fact is that most of the stars we see shining in the night sky are actually pairs, or even larger families, 2 or more stars bound together by gravity and slowly circling one another through the ages, so that a great many of the calm lights above us are quietly keeping each other company out in the dark. The 33rd fact is that in a binary system, 2 stars orbit gently around their shared center of gravity for billions of patient years, and some of them circle so closely that they nearly touch and softly share their outer gases, while others drift so very far apart that each one seems almost entirely alone in the wide and quiet dark. The 34th fact is that some stars gently pulse and slowly change their brightness in a steady, faithful rhythm, softly swelling and shrinking over hours or days or weeks, and these patient, beating stars, which we call variables, have quietly become some of astronomers' most trusted measuring rods across the vast and silent distances of open space. The 35th fact is that a special and beautiful kind of pulsing star, called a Cepheid variable, brightens and dims in a rhythm so precisely tied to its own true brightness that simply by watching its steady, faithful beat, astronomers can measure how far away its entire galaxy lies, a gentle lighthouse quietly marking the deep and distant dark. The 36th fact is that the familiar twinkling of the stars is not truly something the stars themselves do at all, but is caused instead by their light passing through the ever-moving air of our own atmosphere, so that from high above the air, out in open space, the stars shine perfectly and calmly steady, without a single flicker. The 37th fact is that the sun, though it feels so mighty and so vast to all of us here, is truly a rather ordinary, middle-sized star, and there are countless stars both far larger and far smaller scattered throughout the whole galaxy, so that our own dear star is comfortably and gently average among its many distant kin. The 38th fact is that our sun is so very large that more than 1,000,000 whole Earths could fit within it, with room still to spare, and yet compared with the very greatest of the supergiant stars, our sun itself would seem no more than a tiny, quiet, glowing speck resting gently beside their enormous and softly glowing bulk. The 39th fact is that despite their fierce and blazing surfaces, stars are made entirely of gas, from their very outermost layers all the way down to their deep and hidden cores, with no solid ground anywhere within them at all, only ever hotter and denser and heavier gas the deeper and deeper you would slowly travel inward. The 40th fact is that a star's surface, though it looks perfectly smooth and calm to us from afar, is in truth a vast, churning, boiling ocean of hot glowing gas, forever rising and falling in great slow cells, and marked here and there by cooler, darker patches that we know upon our own gentle sun as sunspots. The 41st fact is that no star can shine on forever, for each one carries within it only a finite store of fuel, and when at last that fuel begins to run low after long and patient ages, the star must slowly begin to change, and to swell, and to gently and quietly enter into the final chapters of its long life. The 42nd fact is that when a star like our own sun finally exhausts the hydrogen fuel within its core, its center slowly contracts and heats while its outer layers swell enormously and gently outward, and it becomes a red giant, glowing cooler and redder even as it grows vastly larger and softer and more diffuse than ever before. The 43rd fact is that in about 5 billion years our own dear sun will slowly swell into just such a red giant, growing large enough in time to swallow the innermost planets whole, a slow and distant transformation that lies unimaginably far beyond the entire span of all human history that is yet to come. The 44th fact is that deep within a red giant, the hot and contracting core begins to fuse helium into carbon and oxygen, quietly kindling a new and gentler inner furnace, and so the aging star buys itself a little more time, shining on softly and steadily in its swollen old age for many further millions of years. The 45th fact is that a gentle star like the sun does not violently explode at the very end of its life, but instead quietly sheds its swollen outer layers into the surrounding space, casting off soft, glowing shells of gas that drift slowly and gracefully outward, forming one of the loveliest and most delicate of all the cosmic sights. The 46th fact is that these gently glowing shells of cast-off gas are called planetary nebulae, though they truly have nothing at all to do with planets, and they shine in delicate rings and soft bubbles and butterfly shapes for a few thousand quiet years before slowly and peacefully fading and dispersing once more back into the dark. The 47th fact is that at the fading heart of such a beautiful nebula, the old star leaves behind its bare and slowly cooling core a small, dense, and quietly glowing ember that we call a white dwarf, no larger across than the whole Earth, and yet still holding much of the mass of an entire star. The 48th fact is that a white dwarf is so astonishingly and profoundly dense that a single small spoonful of its crushed material would weigh as much as a heavy truck here on the surface of the Earth, its atoms squeezed together far more tightly than anything we could ever possibly hope to make with our own hands. The 49th fact is that a white dwarf makes no new energy of its own at all, and so it simply cools very, very slowly over the course of countless billions of years, fading gently and gradually from white to yellow to a soft deep red, and at last, in the far and distant future, into a cold and silent dark. The 50th fact is that our own sun itself is destined, in the very end, to become just such a white dwarf, a small and gently cooling ember about the size of the Earth, resting quietly and peacefully at the center of the beautiful glowing nebula that it will have softly breathed out into the surrounding space. The 51st fact is that the most massive stars of all meet a far more dramatic and sudden end, for when their great cores finally run out of fuel to burn, they collapse inward in a single instant and rebound outward in a titanic explosion that we call a supernova, one of the most powerful events in all of the universe. The 52nd fact is that a single supernova can, for a few brief and dazzling weeks, outshine the entire galaxy of many billions of stars that quietly holds it, blazing with a light so brilliant that it may be seen clear across the whole universe, before slowly, gently, and gradually fading away once more back into the calm dark. The 53rd fact is that the heavy elements of the universe, the gold and the silver, the iron and the oxygen and so much more, are forged within the hearts of massive stars and then scattered outward by these great explosions, so that supernovae are the quiet seed sowers of everything solid there is, including our own small world. The 54th fact is that the vast expanding cloud left behind by a supernova, which we call a supernova remnant, spreads slowly outward across space for many thousands of years, its beautiful tangled glowing filaments gently and steadily enriching the surrounding gas with new elements, from which future stars and planets may one day quietly form. The 55th fact is that the beautiful and famous Crab Nebula is the glowing remnant of a great star that was seen to explode in the year 1054, when patient watchers here on Earth carefully recorded a bright new light in the sky, so brilliant that it shone even in the daytime, before slowly and quietly fading from view. The 56th fact is that when a massive star collapses at the end of its life, its core may be crushed down into a neutron star, an object so incredibly and profoundly dense that a whole sun's worth of mass is packed tightly into a small sphere only about the size of a single quiet, sleeping city. The 57th fact is that a neutron star is so unimaginably dense that a single small sugar cube of its material would weigh as much as an entire mountain here on Earth. Its matter crushed together so very tightly that the empty space found within ordinary atoms has been almost completely squeezed away into nearly nothing at all. The 58th fact is that many young neutron stars spin astonishingly and remarkably fast, turning hundreds of times each and every second, and they sweep narrow beams of radiation across space like a distant lighthouse, so that we see them pulse with a steady, faithful, unwavering rhythm, and we gently call these quiet cosmic beacons pulsars. The 59th fact is that the very largest and most massive stars of all, when they finally die, may collapse so completely and so utterly that not even light itself can escape from them, leaving behind a black hole, the very deepest and quietest silence that the whole cosmos can hold, born gently from the death of a once brilliant star. The 60th fact is that in this quiet way the death of stars is never truly an ending at all, but rather a gentle new beginning, for the gas and dust that they scatter drifts slowly back into the great clouds of space, gathering once more over ages into brand new stars, in a soft and patient and endless cycle of renewal. The 61st fact is that a galaxy is a vast and glowing island of stars, gas, dust, and dark matter, all held gently together by gravity and slowly turning through the surrounding dark of space. And a single great galaxy may quietly hold within it hundreds of billions of stars drifting softly along, far too many to ever truly count. The 62nd fact is that our own home galaxy is called the Milky Way, an immense and beautiful spiral made of several hundred billion stars, and our sun is just one modest and quiet star among all of them, resting gently out in one of the graceful spiral arms, far from the crowded and softly glowing central heart. The 63rd fact is that the pale, soft band of light we call the Milky Way, arching gently across a truly dark and moonless night sky, is really the combined glow of countless distant stars within our own galaxy's flat disk, far too faint and too far to see one by one, all blending softly into a gentle river of light. The 64th fact is that the Milky Way is so unimaginably vast that light itself, the very fastest thing there is in all the universe, takes about 100,000 long years just to cross from one side of it to the other, a distance so enormous that it quietly and gently humbles every measure we know here on Earth. The 65th fact is that our sun, faithfully carrying the Earth and all of the other planets along with it, sweeps slowly around the distant center of the Milky Way in one vast and stately orbit that takes roughly 230 million years to complete just once, a gentle journey so slow that we can never once feel it. The 66th fact is that spiral galaxies like our own Milky Way are among the very loveliest objects in all of the cosmos, with graceful, glowing arms winding slowly outward from a bright central bulge, arms that are the birthplaces of new stars, quietly and endlessly turning like the softest and the slowest of great celestial pinwheels. The 67th fact is that the spiral arms of a galaxy are not solid, fixed, unchanging structures at all, but rather slow-moving waves that gently gather the drifting gas together as they pass through it, triggering the birth of bright new stars, so that the arms shine so vividly simply because they are the galaxy's great glowing nurseries. The 68th fact is that many other galaxies are shaped instead like vast, smooth spheres or gentle rounded ovals, and these are known as elliptical galaxies, made up mostly of old, quiet, softly reddish stars, with very little gas remaining to make any new ones, resting calmly and peacefully in their long and unhurried old age. The 69th fact is that the very largest galaxies of all are the giant ellipticals, immense and smooth glowing clouds of stars that can hold many trillions of them within, often resting at the very hearts of great crowded clusters of galaxies, grown so vast and old over the ages by slowly swallowing their many smaller neighbors. The 70th fact is that some galaxies have no clear or regular shape at all, and these are gently called irregular galaxies, often small and rich with gas and busily forming many new stars, drifting softly like ragged, glowing clouds, sometimes gently pulled into their uneven forms by the passing gravity of a much larger nearby neighbor. The 71st fact is that at the very center of almost every large galaxy there sleeps a supermassive black hole, weighing many millions or even billions of suns, resting quietly and patiently at the very heart of the galaxy, and gently anchoring the great, slow, sweeping orbits of all the countless stars that circle around it. The 72nd fact is that the nearest large galaxy to our own is called Andromeda, a truly magnificent spiral galaxy a little larger even than our own Milky Way, resting some 2.5 million light-years away from us, and yet still faintly visible to the unaided naked eye as a soft, dim smudge of ancient light. The 73rd fact is that the light you see arriving from the great Andromeda galaxy set out on its long journey across space about 2.5 million years ago, so that to glimpse it softly in the dark is to see it not as it truly is right now, but as it once was in the deep and distant past. The 74th fact is that our own Milky Way and the neighboring Andromeda galaxy are drifting slowly toward one another even now, and in about 4 billion years the two great spirals will gently and gradually merge together into a single larger galaxy, a slow and majestic union quietly unfolding far beyond the whole span of human time. The 75th fact is that when two galaxies finally meet and merge together, their individual stars almost never actually collide with one another, for the distances between the stars are so unimaginably vast that the two galaxies simply pass through one another like two soft clouds, mingling slowly and gently over many hundreds of millions of years. The 76th fact is that our Milky Way is quietly orbited by a small family of smaller companion galaxies, the largest of which, the two Magellanic Clouds, drift softly and low in the southern sky, and can be seen with the unaided eye as two faint glowing patches from the darker skies of the Earth's southern half. The 77th fact is that galaxies were among the very first great structures to form in the young universe, gathering slowly and patiently from vast clouds of primordial gas within unseen scaffolds of dark matter, their very first stars quietly kindling in the darkness less than 1 billion years after the very beginning of all things. The 78th fact is that astronomers now believe galaxies grow steadily larger over billions of years by slowly merging with and quietly swallowing their many smaller neighbors, so that even our own dear Milky Way carries within it today the gentle scattered remnants of many little galaxies that it drew softly into itself long, long ago. The 79th fact is that most of a galaxy's total mass seems to be made not of shining stars at all, but rather of a mysterious, invisible substance that we call dark matter, which gives off no light whatsoever and yet gently holds the whole vast galaxy together by the quiet and patient strength of its unseen gravity. The 80th fact is that we know that this dark matter is truly there only because of the way that its gravity gently guides the visible stars and gas, for without its unseen and patient pull the great galaxies would simply spin themselves apart, and so we sense it softly through everything that it quietly and faithfully holds together. The 81st fact is that galaxies, much like the stars themselves, very rarely drift entirely alone through space, but gather together into groups and great clusters bound by gravity, and our own dear Milky Way belongs to a modest little gathering of a few dozen galaxies that astronomers have gently named the local group. The 82nd fact is that the local group is quietly ruled by just two great spiral galaxies, our own Milky Way and the neighboring Andromeda, each of them surrounded by its own quiet family of smaller companion galaxies, all drifting slowly together through the vast surrounding dark as one gently bound and peaceful little cosmic neighborhood. The 83rd fact is that far larger gatherings of galaxies, which we call galaxy clusters, can hold hundreds or even thousands of galaxies swarming slowly together, bound tightly by gravity and bathed in vast clouds of thin, hot gas, forming some of the most massive single structures to be found anywhere in the whole of the universe. The 84th fact is that these great clusters of galaxies themselves gather together into even grander groupings that we call superclusters, immense chains and sweeping sheets of galaxies stretching across hundreds of millions of light-years, so vast and so wide that a single one of them can hold many thousands of galaxies within its gentle and enormous embrace. The 85th fact is that on the very largest scale of all that we can see, the galaxies are not scattered evenly and smoothly through space, but are strung softly along vast glowing filaments and walls, wrapped gently around enormous, nearly empty voids, together forming a delicate and beautiful pattern that we quietly call the cosmic web. The 86th fact is that this great cosmic web is the very grandest structure known to exist anywhere at all. A vast and gentle glowing scaffolding of galaxies and dark matter spun softly across the entire universe, resembling, in a strange and quietly beautiful way, the soft and delicately branching threads found within a single living brain. The 87th fact is that the empty spaces found within the cosmic web, which astronomers call voids, are so utterly enormous that a single one of them may stretch onward for hundreds of millions of light-years with almost nothing at all inside, vast and silent bubbles of deep and perfect darkness resting quietly between the glowing strands. The 88th fact is that our very best telescopes now suggest that the observable universe holds something like 2 trillion separate galaxies, each and every one of them brimming with hundreds of billions of stars, a number so utterly and unimaginably vast that no human mind can ever truly hold it, only gently and quietly wonder at it. The 89th fact is that there are, by our very best reckoning, far more stars scattered through the observable universe than there are grains of sand upon all of the beaches and within all of the great deserts of the entire Earth combined, a number so immense that it gently overflows every attempt we make to picture it. The 90th fact is that because light always takes a little time to travel across space, the farthest galaxies that we can possibly see appear to us as they once were billions of years ago, so that our very deepest telescopes are also gentle time machines, quietly and softly showing us the young universe as it once was long ago. The 91st fact is that the whole grand and intricate structure of stars and galaxies grew slowly and patiently from the very faintest ripples in the young universe, tiny differences in density that gravity gently gathered and deepened over billions of years, until at last the first stars kindled into life and softly lit the ancient and waiting dark. The 92nd fact is that the entire universe has been quietly and steadily expanding ever since its very beginning, and so all the distant galaxies are drifting slowly away from us and from one another, not through space, but because the very space between them is itself gently and patiently stretching ever wider with the passing of the ages. The 93rd fact is that this gentle cosmic expansion means that the universe was once far smaller, far hotter, and far more crowded than it is today, and so by looking carefully outward and backward we can trace it softly back, step by patient step, toward its own beginning very nearly 14 billion quiet years ago. The 94th fact is that the very atoms within your own body were forged long ago inside the hearts of stars and then scattered gently by their deaths across the whole galaxy, so that you yourself are quite truly a small and living and breathing part of the cosmos, made of the very same stardust as the distant stars themselves. The 95th fact is that the very same gentle laws of gravity and of light shape everything from the smallest glowing ember of a dying star to the very greatest sweeping chains of distant galaxies, so that the whole vast and endless cosmos is bound together, quietly and beautifully, by one single deep and unbroken and enduring harmony. The 96th fact is that for all that we have patiently learned across the centuries, the greater part of the universe remains a gentle and open mystery still, its dark matter and its deep beginnings quietly awaiting us, leaving always an open and an endless sense of wonder that soothes, rather than troubles, the softly resting mind. The 97th fact is that to gaze softly and quietly up at the stars and the galaxies is to feel at once how small and yet how deeply precious we truly are, a fleeting, gentle spark of living awareness gazing out upon a vast and ancient cosmos, and quietly finding a deep and peaceful rest within its endless beauty. The 98th fact is that somewhere out in the deep and endless dark, at this very moment while you rest, countless new stars are quietly being born within their glowing clouds, while others gently fade away, and great galaxies turn slowly through the silence, just as they have for ages, and just as they will long after tonight. The 99th fact is that you are a small, and a gentle, and a truly beloved part of this very same vast and turning universe, cradled safely upon a quiet blue world, drifting slowly among the countless stars, held gently in the long and patient arms of the galaxy, exactly and precisely where you are always meant to be. The 100th fact is that as you drift now softly into sleep, the stars go on shining, and the galaxies go on turning, and the whole vast universe goes on gently unfolding, patient and calm and endless, holding you softly and safely through all the quiet hours of the night. Rest now, sleep well, and thank you for drifting with me beyond the stars.